Hi everyone, 5.2, the Texas-Mexican War. The reason why we're focusing on this today is because this helped with expansion, but also caused increased tensions between slave and non-slave states. So the objective for today is to determine how the Mexican War played a role in expansion westward by completing an atlas activity. There's two slides for this lesson, one on Texas independence and one on the Mexican War. So for Texas independence, first we focus on the Battle of the Alamo. And this was when the defenders of the Alamo were greatly outnumbered, but they ended up fighting for 13 days before they eventually were surrendered, and most of them were killed. And what this showed was that Texans were resilient and they really wanted their independence and they were willing to fight for it. So it kind of sent this message that to Mexico, which controlled Texas at the time, that they would do what they needed to do to get their independence. So in 1836, Texas finally did declare its independence from Mexico. And this led to a lot of tensions, as you can imagine, between Mexico and the independent Texas. But there was a problem with this as well. So now Texas was an independent country. So you had the United States of America, you had Mexico, and then you had the independent nation of Texas. And so Texas had a lot of debt because they were small, they were a small country, and they incurred a lot of debt when they declared their independence and fought for their independence from Mexico. So Texas, one way to solve this problem was to annex into the United States or to become part of the United States. So they decided that they would become part of the United States, and that would help take care of the debt that they owed. Oops, sorry. Now, after Texas was annexed by the United States, this eventually led to war with Mexico. So this led to causes. The first was that the U.S. would start taking other Mexican territory. If they already took some Mexican territory, what would prevent them from taking more of it? But they also claimed that there was this fear that Mexican citizens would be treated like slaves. They would not be looked at as equals. So the Mexican War began in 1846. It lasted exactly, well, not exactly a year, but close to a year. And part of the reason why it didn't last very long was because the Mexican army didn't have a lot of resources. They weren't very well prepared. They weren't trained very well. One of the cool things about this war, though, is it was one of the first wars to ever be covered by news media. So there was a lot published about the war. The war did finally come to an end with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which allowed for Mexican cession, essentially for Texas to become part of the United States. And then a few years after that, the United States purchased a small plot of land from Mexico yet again, and that was in 1853. They purchased this land because they wanted to be able to build part of the Transcontinental Railroad through Mexico, and they needed control over that railroad in order to do that. And this purchase also kind of ended westward expansion. It just so happened that westward expansion was pretty much done by this point. And that is it for today.